Okay, so everyone's heard about the whole Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. From what I know, it was a legal rally. They got a permit for it. The city then revoked the permit. They went to court to get the permit reinstated. I think they went to court twice, and the ACLU was involved, actually on their side, on the Unite the Right people's side. And apparently the location of the parks that they were going to have the rally, it changed. So, but ultimately it was a legal rally. So the white nationalists went in, they held their night rally, and then during the day, a whole bunch of cops showed up. Now, during the night rally, it was fine. They had their chants, they had their marches, and I think they had a speech. Maybe I just watched little clips of it, and so that was all fine. There was no problems there. But then during the day, two groups showed up: the cops and the anti-whites. And the cops showed up, and I think around 11:06, they declared it an illegal gathering. And then the cops ordered the groups to disperse. Before this, the white nationalists and the anti-whites, they were separated from each other. When the cops ordered the crowd to disperse, this caused the two groups to merge into each other, and that led to the chaos. The cops also had a barricade that actually functionally split the Unite the Right group in half as well. That caused all the fighting and violence and stuff. And then, as we know, there was one guy who drove into a bunch of protesters. And now that car event, that guy driving his car into a bunch of protesters, that looks like, I don't know, that has little signs of a psyop. I'm getting a little bit tinfoil hat here, I guess. But whatever. Even if that event wasn't planned, wasn't a psyop, look at the shit show it's caused, right? And here's the problem: since it was at your event, he's now linked to you. Vaguely and stupidly in the public mind, that is now linked to you. You know, the Unite the Right group wasn't causing any problems, and things were actually fine until the cops and the anti-white showed up. In fact, frankly, I mean, if it was just the anti-whites who showed up, it probably still would have been okay. Right? It probably would have been fine if the cops just weren't there. The cops caused this mess, right? The police were the chief culprits in this. The police caused the chaos. The Unite the Right people, they literally didn't do nothing. They literally didn't do nothing wrong. But that didn't stop a full court press against them by legacy media and politicians who want to signal against them, as though it was white nationalists causing all the violence. And of course, at this rally, because there's no party discipline, you had a bunch of people going around with their swastika flags. And when you do that, look, I know what you think about the Hitler regime, I know what you think about the Holocaust, and I know that there's a whole big woolly debate about that, but nobody in the public cares, right? Nobody in the public knows any of that. They're not going to care about any of that. That swastika flag, it's an immediate trigger, and it's just, I think the alt-right in general should take this to heart. Okay, this was a PR disaster. Now, you guys were completely screwed over. You literally did nothing wrong, and they all just started coming after you, but it doesn't matter, because you don't control how these events are framed. Now, I'm surprised it's taken this long for something like this to happen. And I'm going on Facebook and other places, and within the alt-right groups, there's debate over whether or not this was a disaster, whether this was effective. But that's the only place where there's a debate on that. Everywhere else, it's unanimous that this is a PR disaster. And I look at these events. Every time there's an event like this, I'm like, what are you thinking? There's an entire base of shitty priors that the public has. Okay, they are pre-primed. You know this. They're pre-primed to think that you're the bad guys no matter what. And all the legacy media has to do is pull a few triggers. All they have to do is say violence at XYZ rally, and then show a picture of a guy with a swastika flag. Confederate flag as well, but the Confederate flag's not as bad. But if they got a swastika flag, that's gold, right? Picture of that. Violence at rally. Violence at white supremacist rally. Guy with swastika flag. Done. All right, they've primed the trigger, and then you have half the U.S. population goes into a frenzy in fixed action patterns that have all been established through years of conditioning. For all this time, the internet has been the way around this crap, because on the internet you get to present your case without it being filtered by legacy media. In the old days, white nationalists didn't have the internet, and so they had no choice but to do this kind of stupid real-life stuff that was heavily filtered and heavily controlled by legacy media. What message is the public getting from you in response to Charlottesville? What message are they getting from you in Charlotte? Nothing. Okay, they're getting zilch from you. Okay, most of them. I mean, how many of them even know that it was about the removal of a Confederate statue? How many even know that? Right? I mean that the original intent to protest the removal of a Confederate statue, that's been totally lost in all this. All you do by going out into meat space like this is you set yourself up as a punching bag and as a demon, to sort of reify all the conditioning about the mythical white supremacists and the ghosts of the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, you went into their play, you got on their stage, and you're their dancing monkey, right? That's what happened here. You got to be their dancing monkey. The reason that white nationalism has gained the ground that it has is because of the media space provided by the internet. Now, I used to make jokes about this. I used to say something like, hey, why don't we stop wasting our time on this internet thing and get involved in real activism? That's the next level. That's the next step, is real world activism, right? Where we go door to door, hand out flyers, and do talks on news stations, where they get to pick and choose what they show to the public. I mean, I said that as a joke, and it's still a joke. This idea that you have to go into their space, it's just going into turf that they control. And what could go well? What could go well from this? What's even the upside from any of this? A little bit of media exposure, a little bit of legacy media exposure. I don't know. Are you going to get more people listening to you on the local news than you will from if you just got some random YouTuber to have you on his YouTube thing? A YouTuber that gets around 20,000 views a video has you on. Which is gonna do. I don't know if it's even clear that these table scraps that you're getting from legacy media even mean anything. And moreover, the kind of people who are watching this stuff, they don't have a link that they can click to go to your stuff, to go see the real thing, to begin the conversion process. I don't know why you're wasting so much time wanting to do legacy media crap, because at the absolute best, the best case scenario is you get a few table scraps from legacy media. And I get there's a bunch of people who want to get out there and do stuff in the real world, feel like they're really doing something. But what did you do in Charlottesville? A bunch of guys marched around, they had a bunch of crap thrown at them, and a bunch of people screamed at them, and the news media screamed at them, and a bunch of cucks said, Ku Klux Klan, Ku Klux Klan, Ku Klux Klan, right? That's all that happened. And with Hailgate, Richard Spencer, I'm sorry to go back to this, but it's the same sort of thing. It's Hailgate, all Richard Spencer did was he held up a glass and said, "Hail victory, hail our people." So he didn't actually do anything bad in the moment, okay? But there was legacy media in there. There were I forget if it was CNN or NBC, but there was legacy media cameras in there. Why were there those cameras there? Why were they let in? Why wasn't that thing, that event with Hailgate, why wasn't that controlled? And that's the crux of this whole thing. It's out of control. The real thing, people shouldn't be surprised about this happening. What they should be surprised is that that took this long for this to happen. The reason the civil rights movement worked is because the blacks had advocates in the media. Okay, they could go somewhere, have an event, a bunch of shit would happen, and then all the reports and all the cameras would be in their favor. That's why it worked. All you do by going to these big events is you're giving them an event. You're creating an event for them. You're giving them a platform, right? It's not your platform. You're just I guess it's your platform, if they don't outright shut it down like they did in Charlottesville. If they're not able to shut it down, what are you having? You're having a little thing where you can say some words to some people walking by on their way to shopping or something. It's pitiful as a form of a platform. You're much better off making another podcast. Right, in terms of the actual people who will hear it. And of course, when you make a podcast, it's now in a media form that's easy to give to someone else. Anyway, but yeah, it's not your platform. You're just the foil, right? You're the punching bag, right? You're just the boogeyman for them to signal against. That's all you're doing at these stupid events, okay? You're spending your money and your time to give them a platform to bash you with. You know, if you want your message to get out, like, take all the money that you would spend on these parties and give it to some social media guys, okay? Pay some big YouTube channels to interview you, and pay them some money to interview you and let you make your points on their platform. Okay, like for $1,000, you can have 10 guys, for the cost of 10 guys showing up to Charlottesville, right, to be screamed at and have things thrown at them, or at best be able to listen to like Mike Enoch speak when they could hear him speak on the podcast. Like, all right, you could do that. Or with that same money, you could go to on a YouTube channel where 10,000 people will hear you, and they'll hear you in your own words for the first time. And they'll hear you while they're sitting in front of their computer when they want to hear stuff, all right? They're subscribed to this person, so they want to hear, what it is he's talking about. Right? For that money, you can get actual people who will actually listen to your message presented by you, not filtered by others, in your own terms. In the final stages of the breakdown of the rally, and when the narrative started to be really pushed against this, what did Richard Spencer and Mike Enoch instinctively do? They got on Twitter, they got on the internet, onto their platforms to try to do what little they could to try to jam the narrative. Of course, there was no way they were going to jam this narrative. There was too much arrayed against them. But their immediate instinctive reaction was to go to the net. And that itself, I think, tells us all we need to know about the value of real-world activism.